snow fell so thick it blinded thermal scopes. The radio crackled nothing but static and rapid breathing. "We're surrounded," a SEAL whispered, hands trembling from cold and something worse than cold. 3 sides held enemy infantry. The fourth, an armored vehicle grinding forward, treads crushing snow like the prelude to an execution. 1 armor-piercing round left. A rifle half frozen in its mechanism. And a female sniper no one on the team had ever fully trusted. She lay motionless in the blizzard, then squeezed the trigger. The wind screamed across the ridgeline like something alive and hunting. Staff Sergeant Elena Voss pressed her cheek against the rifle stock, ice crystals forming instantly on her eyelashes. Through the scope, the world had become a gray void punctuated by swirling white chaos. Visibility, maybe 30 meters on a good second, less than 10 most of the time. Below her position, 800 meters down in the valley, 12 SEALs from Team 7 were supposed to be finishing their exfiltration. Clean mission, intelligence gathering, no contact, in and out before the storm hit full strength. Except the storm had arrived 6 hours early, and the intelligence had been catastrophically wrong. Elena's radio crackled. "Overwatch, this is Alpha Lead. Checkpoint Delta in sight, route is clear, we're coming home." Lieutenant Marcus Chen's voice carried the relief of a man who thought the hard part was over. Elena didn't respond immediately. Her eyes tracked the snow patterns below. Wind should move snow in relatively consistent waves at this altitude, but there a disruption in the flow. Movement that didn't match the gale. "Alpha Lead, hold position," Elena transmitted. "Something's off." 3 seconds of silence. "Overwatch, thermal is useless up here. We're blind. What are you seeing?" "Not seeing. Feeling. The snow's moving wrong at your 2 o'clock. Too regular." She zoomed her scope further, catching a brief gap in the whiteout. Dark shapes. Too many. Too organized. "Alpha Lead, you need to." The first burst of gunfire cut her transmission short. The valley erupted. Muzzle flashes bloomed like deadly flowers through the snow. Elena watched Team 7 scatter, their formation breaking as fire came from 3 directions simultaneously. The checkpoint Delta they'd been heading toward wasn't an extraction point. It was a kill zone. Someone had known they were coming. Someone had waited in sub-zero temperatures for hours, using the blizzard as cover, letting the Americans walk into a horseshoe ambush that would close around them like a frozen fist. Elena's heartbeat stayed steady, 42 beats per minute, her combat baseline. She'd trained herself to slow it further when needed. Right now, she needed it slower. "Overwatch to all stations. You're in a fixed ambush. 3 sides. They funneled you in." "No shit." That was Petty Officer Ryan Walsh, the team's youngest member. Panic edged his voice. Marcus came back on. "Controlled, but tight. We've got hard cover behind the rocks at grid November 7. Moving there now. Overwatch, we need options." Elena scanned the battlefield, her mind processing information faster than conscious thought. Enemy positions. Approximately 40 infantry in the horseshoe. Small arms, 1 machine gun position. And coming from the north, treads grinding through the powder. Armor on your 6. Light infantry carrier, probably BTR variant. If it reaches your position, you're finished. Weapons? Elena checked her loadout. Standard. 338 Lapua Magnum rounds, useless against armor. But her spotter currently 30 meters away in the emergency cache position had secured something special for this operation. 1 round. Tungsten carbide core. Rated to punch through 25mm steel at 1,000 meters. In perfect conditions. These were not perfect conditions. "I have 1 AP round," Elena said. "Maybe." "Maybe?" "Elena, we need certainties right now. Then get certain about dying, because that's the only guarantee I can give you at this range in a blizzard." The line went quiet. Below, the BTR kept advancing, its commander smart enough to use the terrain and snow for concealment. She could hear its engine now, a distant grinding that grew steadily louder. "Distance to target?" Marcus asked. Elena checked her rangefinder. The numbers flickered, confused by the snowfall. Between 900 and 1,000 meters. Wind variable, 15 to 30 knots, shifting. Temperature, -18 Celsius and dropping. Humidity, I don't need the weather report. You need it if you want this shot to land. Silence again. Then, what are our chances? Elena did the math. Distance, wind, temperature effects on barrel and ammunition, the BTR's closing speed, the armor thickness, the single point of vulnerability she'd need to hit. 10%, she said. Maybe 15 if I'm lucky. And if you miss, then you better find another way out, because I won't get a second shot. The rocks at Grid November 7 provided cover from small arms, but they wouldn't stop the BTR's 14.5mm gun. Marcus knew it. His team knew it. Corporal Jessica Reeves pressed against the stone, checking her magazine. Ice had formed along the feed mechanism. She cycled the action twice, feeling it stick. Weapons are freezing up. Around her, others confirmed the same. The extreme cold was turning their rifles into expensive clubs. They could fire maybe, but reliability dropped with every degree the temperature fell. "We can't stay here," Senior Chief David Porter said. He was the oldest on the team, 18 years in. His judgment was usually flawless. "That armor reaches us. We're dead. We move now. We might break through the line before they adjust." "Move where?" Marcus studied the valley. 3 sides blocked, the 4th closing fast. "They'll cut us down in the open. Then we die moving instead of waiting." Ryan Walsh chambered around, his hands shaking. "Not from cold. There's 40 of them. We're 12. Math doesn't work." "Math never works in our favor," Jessica said. "We do it anyway." But she didn't sound convinced. Marcus keyed his radio. "Overwatch, we're considering a breakout attempt. Northeast quadrant looks thinnest." Through her scope, Elena tracked the suggested route. 6 enemy positions, with overlapping fields of fire. Team 7 would make it maybe 50 meters before the machine gun tore them apart. "Negative," Alpha led. "That's a deliberate weak point. They want you to run that way." "Then what do you suggest?" What Elena suggested defied every tactical manual ever written. Stay put, let the armor close, trust a shot that shouldn't be possible through a storm that made accuracy a fantasy. She said it anyway. "You hold position. I take out the BTR. When it goes down, the infantry will panic. 3-second window to punch through their line before they recover." The pause lasted forever. "Elena," Marcus said carefully, "that's not a plan. That's a prayer. You have a better one?" She waited. Wind howled across the ridgeline, nearly ripping the rifle from its bipod. Below, the BTR ground closer. 500 meters from Team 7 now, its gun turret swiveled, searching. 450 meters. "If I tell my team to bet their lives on a 1 in 10 shot?" Marcus's voice trailed off. David Porter cut in. "We're already dead without it. At least this way we're doing something." Another voice, Petty Officer Sarah Mitchell, the team medic. "I trust her." "You don't even know her," Ryan said. "I know she's the only reason we're not already corpses. She spotted the ambush before we walked into the center of it." 400 meters. Marcus made the call. "All stations, hold position, maintain fire discipline. Overwatch has the shot." Ryan's voice cracked slightly. "Skipper, you serious? You have better ideas, Walsh. Now's the time." No response. 350 meters. Elena's spotter, Sergeant Tim Bradford, crawled up beside her. He'd retrieved the armor-piercing round from the cache. The tungsten carbide projectile gleamed dully even in the gray light. He loaded it into the rifle with careful, practiced movements. "Wind's gonna play hell with this," Tim said. "I know. Temperature's dropping the muzzle velocity maybe 50 feet per second. I know. You hit the driver's viewport, it bounces. You hit the side armor, it bounces. You need the engine compartment access panel, and that's maybe 8 inches across." "I know, Tim." He looked at her. "You ever made a shot like this?" "No, me neither." 300 meters. The BTR's engine roared louder. Through the scope, Elena could see its front-sloping armor pushing snow aside like a frozen wave. Behind it, infantry advanced in its wake, using the vehicle as a shield. "Overwatch, we're running out of time," Marcus transmitted. Elena settled into her shooting position, stock welded to shoulder, cheek pressed firm, breathing slowed. The world contracted to the small circle of her scope view, 250 meters from Team 7. "Elena," Tim said quietly, "they're counting on you." "Don't help," she replied. 6 months earlier, Fort Benning. Elena had walked into the briefing room to find 12 men staring at her. Not hostile, just measuring. Lieutenant Chen had been professional. Sergeant Voss, welcome to Team 7. Your record is impressive. Why is she here? David Porter had interrupted. We've got 4 qualified snipers already. I'm not replacing anyone, Elena had said. This operation requires someone who specializes in extreme cold weather operations. That's me. Ryan Walsh had leaned back. We've all done cold weather training. Training is in combat in -30 degrees. I've spent 3 winters in Alaska, 2 above the Arctic Circle. I know how weapons behave when firing pins get brittle. I know wind patterns in mountainous blizzards. I know frostbite compensation. Book knowledge, someone muttered. Experience, Elena corrected. You're going into terrain I've lived in. Command thought you might benefit from that. If you'd rather rely on 3-day courses, I'll head back to my unit. She'd meant it. Elena never begged for acceptance. Marcus had studied her. The operation calls for potential long-range interdiction at extreme distances in adverse conditions. Command says you're the best we've got for that. I am. Not arrogant, just fact. Would you like me to pretend I'm mediocre to make everyone comfortable? A few laughs. The tension broke slightly, but not completely. Jessica Reeves had asked the question everyone was thinking. Have you actually operated with a SEAL team before? No. Then how do you know you can integrate? I don't, Elena admitted. But you won't know if I can until you try. And if I can't, you can request my removal after the first training cycle. Fair? They'd agreed. What else could they do? The training cycles had gone adequately. Elena performed flawlessly, hit her targets, provided accurate reconnaissance, integrated smoothly. But she'd never been one of them. She was the attachment, the specialist, respected for competence, not trusted at the bone-deep level that made teams function. Now, lying in a blizzard with 12 lives depending on her, Elena understood that trust wasn't given, it was earned, one impossible shot at a time. 200 meters from Team 7. Overwatch, do you have the shot? Marcus's voice was steady, but she could hear underlying tension. Calculating, Elena replied. Tim handed her his notepad. She checked her math again. Distance, 960 meters. Wind, 22 knots, gusting to 30. Temperature, -19 and falling. The tungsten carbide round would behave differently than standard ammunition, heavier, but less affected by wind. Her barrel had been cold-soaked for 6 hours. The metal had contracted. All of it mattered. All of it could kill 12 men if she miscalculated. How long? Marcus asked. 30 seconds. We don't have 30 seconds. Then I miss, and we all die faster. Your choice. She went back to her calculations. Engine compartment access panel. Left rear quarter of the BTR, angled 15 degrees. 8 inches tall, 6 inches wide. If she hit anywhere else, the round would ricochet. If she hit the panel dead center, the tungsten core would punch through. If 150 meters from Team 7. Below, she watched David Porter brace his weapon against the rock, preparing for a last stand. Overwatch? Marcus's voice was quieter now. Whatever you're going to do. Elena tuned him out. Breathing, heart rate, wind, distance. She made one final adjustment to her scope, then went completely still. The BTR-80A ground forward through the snow, unstoppable as winter itself. Inside, Commander Dmitry Volkov felt confident. His ambush had worked perfectly. The Americans were trapped with no air support, no artillery, no reinforcements. Distance to target? He asked his driver. 100 meters, Commander. Maintain speed. Prepare main gun. The 14.5 millimeters KPV heavy machine gun could tear through the rocks the Americans hid behind. Simple, clean, effective. Volkov had studied American tactics for 15 years. He knew how they'd try a breakout attempt toward the northeast quadrant. His machine gun team waited there. Hidden, the Americans would run. His gun would cut them down. 75 meters. Through the viewport, Volkov could see muzzle flashes from the Americans' position. Rifle rounds pinged off his armor like hail, futile. Commander, should we return fire? Not yet. Let them waste ammunition. 50 meters. The storm howled louder, snow battering against his vehicle. Perfect conditions. The Americans' technology meant nothing in weather like this. 25 meters. Main gun ready, Commander. Target the largest rock formation. Fire on my. Something struck the BTR. Not a bullet impact, something different. A deeper sound, metal on metal. Then the engine died. Not sputtered, just stopped. Completely. What happened? Volkov demanded. The driver frantically worked the controls. Engine's dead. No response. Restart it. I'm trying. Behind them, Volkov heard the sound he'd never wanted to hear in combat. Liquid igniting. Fire, the driver screamed. Engine compartment. Smoke seeped through the air vents. Acrid, black, toxic. Everybody out. Volkov threw open his hatch. Dismount. The crew bailed from the burning vehicle, stumbling into the snow. Behind them, flames licked through the access panel. He stared at it, understanding slowly. Someone had hit the one vulnerable point on his vehicle. Through a blizzard. At nearly 1,000 meters. Impossible. 50 meters ahead, the Americans rose from behind their rocks, moving like a machine. Professional, efficient, deadly. Volkov's infantry suddenly found themselves exposed and leaderless. Their invincible armor was burning, the belief shattered. Hold position, Volkov shouted. The American machine gun opened up. Men screamed, others broke and ran. The ambush collapsed in seconds. Volkov dove behind a snowdrift. As bullets kicked up powder around him, one thought dominated. Who made that shot? 30 seconds earlier. Elena's world had contracted to three things. The scope picture, her breathing, and the numbers running through her mind. Wind speed, 22 knots, gusting. She'd wait for a lull between gusts. Distance, 960 meters, verified by laser. Target, moving at approximately 4 kilometers per hour. By the time her bullet arrived roughly 1.2 seconds flight time, the BTR would have moved forward 1.3 meters. She'd need to aim at where it would be, not where it was. Temperature, -19 degrees Celsius. Her barrel had been cold-soaked for hours. The powder charge in her tungsten carbide round would burn slightly cooler than rated specifications. Muzzle velocity would drop approximately 50 feet per second. The bullet would arc higher than normal. She adjusted her aim up 3.5 inches. Wind drift. At this distance, the crosswind would push her round laterally, standard. 338 Lapua Magnum would drift 42 inches. But the heavier tungsten core would drift less. She estimated 31 inches. She adjusted her aim left. Gravity. The bullet would drop approximately 9 feet over this distance, accounting for the reduced muzzle velocity. Her scope adjustment compensated for that. Target size, 8 inches by 6 inches, angled 15 degrees. Effective target area, maybe 48 square inches. At 960 meters, that was roughly 0.08 degrees of angular measurement, less than 1/10 of a degree. Margin of error, essentially zero. Tim whispered beside her, BTR's at 75 meters from Alpha Lead. Elena ignored him. She scraped frost from her eyelid with one finger, keeping the other hand steady on the rifle. Her trigger finger, the only part of her she could still feel, rested lightly on the trigger face. 2 pounds of pressure and she'd send that tungsten core downrange. Breathing, she'd slowed her heart to 38 beats per minute now. Each breath took 5 seconds. In, hold, out, hold. The rifle rose and fell almost imperceptibly with each cycle. 50 meters. She watched the wind through her scope. Snow crystals swirled, showing the air currents. There a brief lull. The gusts dropped from 30 knots to 20. A small window, maybe 3 seconds. Elena didn't think about the 12 men depending on her. Didn't think about the consequences of missing. Thought only about the physics, the numbers, the trajectory. She exhaled slowly, her lungs emptying. At the natural respiratory pause between breaths, when her body was most still, she squeezed. The rifle punched her shoulder. The muzzle flash was swallowed instantly by the storm. Snow blasted backward from the muzzle brake, creating a small, localized blizzard. Through the scope, she tracked the BTR for the 1.2 seconds it took her bullet to cover 960 meters. Saw it strike. Saw the vehicle jerk slightly. Then nothing. Miss, Tim said quietly. But Elena kept watching. The BTR kept moving. 10 meters, 20. Its engine should have been roaring, but she saw no exhaust smoke. The vehicle was coasting, momentum carrying it forward. Then it stopped. Hit, Elena corrected. Watch. 5 seconds later, smoke began pouring from the engine compartment. 10 seconds after that, the crew bailed out. 20 seconds later, flames engulfed the rear of the vehicle. Holy. Tim breathed. Elena was already scanning for secondary targets. The infantry in the valley had broken formation. Some were running, others were freezing in place, uncertain. She found the machine gun position that had been waiting to ambush Team 7's breakout attempt. Alpha lead, enemy machine gun at your 2 o'clock, 300 meters. Masked position behind the fallen tree, 3 personnel. Copy. Engaging. She watched Marcus's team move. They'd been pinned down, passive, dying slowly. Now they flowed forward like water, finding a crack, exploiting the chaos her single shot had created. They moved as she'd been trained to move, never silhouetted, always covered, every man knowing his sector. Professional. The machine gun team never got their weapon into action. Jessica Reeves put 2 rounds through the gunner before he could traverse toward the advancing SEALs. David Porter dropped the assistant gunner. The third man ran. Elena tracked him through her scope. 800 meters. Running in deep snow. Panicking. She compensated for wind, distance, his movement. Squeezed. The running man fell. Target down, she reported. Tim stared at her. You just made a shot on a moving target at 800 meters in a blizzard. He was moving slowly. Snow slowed him down. Elena, that's not a thing people do. I just did it. She continued scanning, calling out targets, providing cover. Her rifle spoke twice more. Both shots landed. Both targets dropped. Below, Team 7 punched through the broken enemy line. The ambush that should have killed them dissolved into chaos. Men scattered. Weapons were abandoned. The discipline trap became a rout. Overwatch. This is Alpha Lead. Marcus transmitted. We're through. Heading to emergency extraction point. You saved our lives. Elena didn't respond immediately. She was watching her sector, ensuring no enemy rallied for a counterattack. Only when Team 7 had disappeared into the storm, headed for safety, did she key her radio. Just doing my job, Alpha led. That wasn't a job. That was impossible. Impossible is just probability with bad marketing, she said. Then added, Tim's words, not mine. Beside her, Tim grinned despite the cold. 300 meters away, Senior Chief David Porter had seen a lot of combat in 18 years. He'd seen lucky shots, he'd seen skilled shots. He'd never seen anything like what Elena Voss had just done. That BTR was moving, he said to Jessica Reeves as they advanced. In a blizzard. At nearly 1,000 meters. I know. She hit an access panel the size of a shoebox. I know, Chief. That's not training. That's something else. Jessica checked her corner. You doubted her. I doubted the shot. Same thing. Was it? David wasn't sure anymore. 6 months ago, he'd been skeptical. Now, watching his team exploit the gap she'd created, David understood. Trust was about watching people perform when everything was on the line. Elena had performed. They were alive because of it. Alpha led, we're clear of the kill zone, he reported. No casualties. Copy. Keep moving. Extraction is 40 minutes out. They'd survive. They'd make it. Because a woman they doubted had made a shot they'd thought impossible. Behind them, the BTR continued burning, its flames visible even through the blizzard. Ryan Walsh moved up beside David. Chief, I need to say something. Later, Walsh. No, now. I didn't believe in her. I was wrong. We were all wrong, David said. Keep moving. At the emergency landing zone, while they waited for helicopters, Marcus approached David. Chief, I need you to write up Elena's actions. Full report. I'm putting her in for a commendation. What level? Whatever fits. Saved an entire SEAL team by making an impossible shot. You're better with the formal writing than me. David nodded. Sir, she's going to hate the attention. I know, but she's getting one anyway. What she did today becomes legend, and legends need recognition. Yes, sir. The helicopters arrived 20 minutes later. As Team 7 loaded, David took one last look at the valley. Somewhere up on that ridgeline, Elena and Tim were already packing up, erasing their position, disappearing. Professional to the end. Commander Volkov crouched behind a snowdrift, watching his operation disintegrate. Half his men were dead or wounded. The other half had scattered. The Americans had broken through and disappeared into the storm. One shot. One impossible shot had changed everything. Commander, Lieutenant Petrov crawled over. We need to fall back. Fall back where? Our vehicles are 3 kilometers away. A bullet hit the snow between them. Not close enough to be targeted, a reminder. Someone was still watching. The sniper. How does someone make that shot? Volkov asked quietly. Another shot kicked up powder 50 meters away, aimed at a soldier trying to recover the machine gun. The soldier dropped it and ran. She's not trying to kill us all, Petrov said. She's making sure we leave. Volkov gave the order. All units, fall back to Rally Point Zulu. We move now. His remaining men needed no encouragement. They disappeared into the blizzard, abandoning everything. The ambush site became a graveyard of discarded gear and lost opportunity. As Volkov retreated, one thought dominated. He'd underestimated the Americans, assumed their technology made them soft. He'd been catastrophically wrong. 45 minutes later, as the helicopters lifted off, Elena and Tim finally reached the extraction point. The last helicopter waited, rotors beating against the wind. Marcus stood in the open door, waving them in. Elena climbed aboard, her muscles finally registering how cold she'd been. She collapsed into a seat. Someone handed her hot water in a thermos. Rough day, Tim said beside her. Seen worse. When? Elena thought about it. Never mind. You're right. Across from her, Ryan Walsh sat with his head back. His eyes were closed, but he wasn't sleeping. Hey, he said without opening his eyes. Sergeant Voss? Yeah? I'm sorry. For not trusting you before. Elena considered her response. You were right not to trust me before. Trust is earned. I hadn't earned it yet. You earned it today. Maybe. Or maybe I got lucky. Ryan opened his eyes. That wasn't luck. No, Elena admitted. But it could have been a miss. 1 degree different, 1 knot more wind, and we'd all be dead. That's what makes it impressive, Marcus said. You knew the odds and took the shot anyway. Elena shrugged. Wasn't going to let you die waiting for certainty. The helicopter banked, turning toward base. Through the open door, the valley disappeared behind them. By morning, the ambush site would look pristine again. No one would know what had happened there. Except them. Jessica Reeves moved over. How's your shoulder? That rifle kicks hard. I'll live. I've got painkillers if you need them. Save them for someone who needs them more. Elena nodded toward one of the SEALs with a wounded arm. He's already medicated, Jessica said. I'm asking about you. I'm fine. Really. Your hands are shaking. They were. Adrenaline dump, probably. Normal response, Elena said. I'll be fine in an hour. Jessica pulled out a warming pack and handed it over. For your hands. And drink more water. Thanks. Don't thank me. Just let me do my job. Elena smiled. Something had changed in how Jessica looked at her. Not gratitude, just acceptance, recognition as an equal. That mattered more than medals. The helicopter flew on through the storm, carrying 12 men who should have been dead and 2 snipers who'd made sure they weren't. 2 days later, back at base, Elena had finished her after-action report. She'd cleaned her rifle. She'd slept for 12 hours. She'd returned to her routine. She was in the armory checking cold weather gear when Marcus found her. Sergeant Voss. Need a minute. Elena set down the equipment. What's up? Marcus closed the door. I'm putting you in for a silver star. Elena blinked. Sir, that's unnecessary. It's necessary. What you did out there saved 12 lives with 1 shot under impossible conditions. Was my job. Your job is providing overwatch. What you did was extraordinary. Marcus sat down. Elena, do you know why I requested you for this team? Elena waited. Kandahar, 2019. You took out an enemy sniper at 1100 meters, 1 shot, then provided cover for your unit's extraction. You received no medal. Barely a mention. The mission didn't require one. Exactly. You did something extraordinary and treated it as routine. That's the mindset I wanted. Marcus leaned forward. This time, what you did needs to be on record, not for you. For the program. For women in special operations. For everyone who thinks females can't perform at this level. Elena's expression didn't change. You're making this political. I'm making this practical. Your skill proves a point that needs proving. They sat in silence. Sir, Elena said, finally, if I accept, I need one condition. Name it. Tim gets recognition too. Bronze Star, not just a commendation. Marcus considered. I can recommend that. Then I'll accept. They shook hands. Outside, David Porter waited. Chief, she said. Heard about the medal. We're having team dinner tonight. Off base, you should come. Elena hesitated. I don't want to intrude. You're not intruding. You're invited. You're Team 7 now. Whether you like it or not, dinner's at 6. He walked away before she could argue. That evening, Elena showed up. The entire team was there. When she entered, they stood, not mockingly, just acknowledging her. Ryan Walsh pulled out a chair. Saved you a seat. Elena sat. Someone handed her a beer. The conversation flowed. At one point, Jessica leaned over. How does it feel, being part of the team, really part of it? Elena thought about that. 6 months of being the outsider, all of it dissolving in one impossible shot. Feels right, she said. It did. 5 years later, Sergeant First Class Daniel Harper sat in a briefing room at Fort Bragg. We're bringing in a cold weather specialist, the team leader said. Best we've got. 2 weeks later, in Alaska, Daniel met Master Sergeant Elena Voss. Older now, weathered by wind and cold, but eyes still sharp. Over 3 days, Elena trained Daniel's team in techniques he'd never considered. How to maintain weapons in extreme cold, how wind shifted in mountains, how to calculate shots when metal contracted. On the 3rd night, around the camp stove, someone asked the question Daniel had been wondering. Ma'am, is it true you made a 1,000-meter shot through a blizzard? Elena poured coffee. 960 meters, not 1,000. Against a moving armored vehicle? Against a specific point on a moving armored vehicle. How? Daniel asked. Elena set down her coffee. Math, practice, experience, and accepting that sometimes you take the shot because it's the only option, even if the odds say you shouldn't. Did you think you'd make it? Elena smiled slightly. I knew I had to make it. There's a difference. Before they broke up, Elena said something that stuck with him. You'll face situations where the odds are bad, where the math says you can't win. Sometimes you listen to that voice. Sometimes you tell it to shut up and take the shot. The trick is knowing which time is which. How do you know? Daniel asked. You don't. Not until after. But if you don't take the shot, you'll never find out if you could have made it. Years later, he'd tell his own team about Elena Voss. About the shot in the blizzard. About the woman who made impossible look routine. The story would grow, as stories do. Details would shift, distance would increase. That's how legends work. But the core truth remained. One sniper, one shot, one moment where skill and necessity intersected. 12 men who lived because of it. Somewhere in Alaska, Elena Voss continued her work, training, teaching, preparing the next generation. Her reputation spoke for itself, and in briefing rooms across the special operations community, instructors referenced the Voss shot, the one that shouldn't have been possible, the one that happened anyway, the one that saved Team 7 in a blizzard.